8:39.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
WordCamp is coming up in February. It's happening in Wellington. What the heck is it? Well, to tell us all about it is Jason Kemp from WordCamp, puts it all together. Joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Jason.
Good morning, Glenn. A WordCamp is, some people think it's a Scrabble meetup.
Yeah, or a spelling bee?
Or a spelling bee.
Yeah.
No, actually, WordPress. You heard of WordPress? It started 7 years ago as a blogging platform used by lots and lots of projects and bloggers, writers, websites all around the world. Solar Rosa in New Zealand use it, for example. Kiwi Blog, who's coming along to WordCamp.
I use it.
Yep, actually, Radio Live. Yes, the whole site runs on
Yep.
WordPress. So
Wammo.co.nz runs on it. It's a software platform, really, isn't it?
yeah, it's what I call a content management system, I suppose, and it's got better and better. And there's a really large community in the hundreds of millions, and that's kind of makes it pretty interesting. WordCamp New Zealand's actually a non-profit charitable trust. And this would be the third event that we've done, and each time we get 150 or so people turning up and grab a bunch of speakers and talk about different ways of using WordPress and also just what people are up to.
So is it all mainly, you say, about this particular platform for blogging on, or is it a little bit wider than that?
I think it's a bit wider. I think there's always going to be a bunch of people who are interested in how stuff gets done, and so they'll talk about the design, which really comes under the sort of heading themes.
Yeah.
And then plugins. There's a whole bunch of people talking about plugins, i.e. little pieces of code that they plug in that do clever things like e-commerce or something like that.
So it's almost about how people interact with the internet.
I guess so, but that's probably only 30% of it. I would say 70% of it is, because it's been around for 7 years, it's probably a little bit more about the content and what people are doing. And so we've got Julie Starr coming along, and she runs a project called Evolving Newsroom. And so, again, part of what she's doing with about the story is actually the main project there, and part of that is about the intersection of media and journalists and other people just doing their own thing. And I guess different channels, different ways of getting to the public.
Do you find that sometimes the platform that people use on the internet to communicate a lot of this information, about their industry or whatever they do, the platform can sometimes get in the way?
It does, and again, that's part of the trick. I mean, what I like about WordPress is when you log in and you want to add a new page, there's a button called Add New Page. And you want to make a post, there's a button called Add New Post. A lot of other systems aren't quite as easy as that.
Yeah.
And I guess from a user perspective, if you've got something that just doesn't get in the way, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And if you've got thousands of people supporting it, and it's open source, it's basically when I say open source, it's kind of free, but there's a lot of people contributing. So if you like something that they do, of course you make a donation and pay for some of these extra bits and pieces,
as opposed to, say, services like Tumblr or Posterous, where it's not really open source, is it? It's owned by a company, and you can also pay for more sort of premium services.
Yep. Oh, look, I have a Tumblr account, I have a Posterous account, I have a Blogger account. I pretty much got everything, and I've used Joomla and Drupal and a whole bunch of other systems out there.
Yeah.
They all have their place in the sun. I know some people like Posterous because it has a blog by email kind of feature, and that's pretty much. Of course, you can actually do that on WordPress as well.
Yeah.
But it's just some of these things are kind of convenient. I think the difference with WordPress, and there's WordPress.com, so you can go onto WordPress.com and have a blog up or website up and running in sort of a few minutes. You don't get as much flexibility, but if you do what's called a self-hosted site, you can do pretty much anything you want.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the extra thing that you get that you don't get with, say, a Tumblr or Posterous. Tumblr or Posterous, they come with what they come with, and it's pretty good for most people, but if you actually want to do extra stuff, so like I work with a couple of music sort of places, and so what we want to do is we want to work on Bandcamp and TuneCore and run videos through TubeMogul. We can actually do all of those things because we can kind of customize all the stuff in the back end just so it all works.
So that's it, isn't it? It's all about being really highly customizable, which is, I suppose, is not for everyone. But
it's not.
If you've got the chops to do it, then it's obviously really, really helpful.
Well, it's kind of a halfway house. I mean, so work with programmers and developers all the time, but because there's this library of code called plugins, literally there's something like 12,000 of these plugins sitting there.
Almost like there's apps out there for your iPhone or your Android, right?
That's exactly what it is. They're like little applications. Some of them are little, some of them are big, some of them barely work, but at least you can see what people are doing. And if you've got a programmer with you, you can go and actually say, hey, we can fix that, we can make it better, we can do something else with it. Or it works fine, let's just use it. And if it breaks, which sometimes they do, there might be another 20 of them just like that, and that you can go and have a look at. So it's a code library.
I guess to your average internet browser who isn't creating content, would they necessarily know that they were browsing a page or a website that was made with WordPress?
They wouldn't, but say in New Zealand, I would say that we're looking probably 2,000 or 3,000 websites at least, and maybe quite a few more than that. I'm just worked on a project for the New Zealand Defence Force, and the site's called operationhq.co.nz. If you have a look at that, you would not know that's a WordPress site. And basically you go log in with your Facebook Connect details. By the way, that's targeted at I guess teenagers who are interested in learning about
the recruitment type.
It's kind of like a pre-recruitment thing. It's pretty clever. I mean, in the old days,
I'm just looking at it now. It doesn't look like a blog.
It doesn't look like a blog. It doesn't look like a WordPress site. You have to say that's got a reasonable sort of budget. Worked with Saatchi and Saatchi on that one, and actually that brings me to my next point. Is one of the speakers we've got coming down to WordCamp is that guy called Paul Gibbs, and he works. He's one of the 5 core developers on a thing called BuddyPress, which is WordPress's kind of version of Facebook, and so what that allows us to do is allows us to basically create pretty much anything you can do on Facebook, but set your own terms of service. And that's huge because, especially for New Zealand Defence Force, they want to be able to say, this is a safe space, this is our space, we set the rules.
Yeah, the CIA isn't owning it.
Well, whatever. I saw that one.
So it's really great. Is there any other standout speakers? I heard that you're also getting along one of New Zealand's biggest Twitter members.
Well, we do, but we've got a couple of other people. I think I mentioned David Farrer of Kiwi Blog. We've actually got Michael Brandon of Search Masters talking about search engine optimization, and he actually won a search engine competition last year. There's a guy called Justin Sainton coming down from Oregon, and again, he's talking about coupons and has got a product called the sort of Groupon Killer. So that whole Groupon space is huge. There was a company last week called Spreets sold for $40 million. That's a real hot spot. Another guy called John Ford, who's also from the US and actually came down here last year to do some... He was down here for Code Black last year, the challenge, and did some stuff at sort of Webstock.
And it's all happening at Te Papa.
Yeah, we're in the Oceania room at Te Papa, and actually one of the other things that we're working on is a panel, and it's... At the moment, we're sort of a working title is maybe the future of blogging, but it's a little bit more than that. It's kind of what's happening next, and because Webstock is on a couple of days before us, there's a few interesting people lurking around, and we don't know who else is going to turn up, but we do know that Lance Wiggs is going to come along, and he's always an interesting guy to have around. And there's another guy. Anybody heard of Read Write Web? Richard McManus is going to come along and help us on the panel.
That's a heavyweight in the technology journalism world.
Well, it's huge. It's huge, and we're absolutely delighted. Again, hopefully it'll be a bit of a showcase. And again, we've got a few other people lined up there. We don't know exactly who until we get a bit closer to the date. But,
cool.
There'll be anything between 150 and 200 people there, and it's only $85 a person, so it's a day and a half.
Easy as. The website is wordcamp.org.nz, all the details, and you can order tickets and find out who's talking and all the updates there as well, and find out more about it if you're totally in the dark. Go and get yourself a future on WordPress. Jason, Kemp, thanks so much. People want to also follow on Twitter. It's WordCamp NZ.
Yeah, WordCamp NZ. Yeah.
And also yourself.
Dialogue CRM.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jason. Good to see you.
Thanks very much.